Welcome everyone to a bit of a brand new series that we're working on. We're calling this for now at least Just 30, where we take 30 minutes of the start of a video game and hopefully we can give some people or give people out there a bit of an insight into whether we think that's enough time or whether we've judged the game well or whether you should pick it up based on just 30 minutes of knowledge. So I'm here with my faithful co-host, co-commentator, Patch. How are you today, Patch?
I am good. How are you?
Going great, as you can tell. I'm excited. I've been thinking about this for weeks and what I wanted to do with this, so hopefully it's cool. And so yeah, like if you've seen games or you see games that we look at and you're not sure if you wanted to pick them up, hopefully you can stop by here and say, oh, yeah, okay, well these guys have played 30 minutes and this is their thoughts. Might save me the trouble. As you'll see on your screen, we kind of cheated. We started with a game we've played before, XCOM, and you'll see that Patch on the top there is playing the expansion as well. So we've kind of got a well, what's XCOM like, and then what's the expansion like, and did they learn and did they get any better? So
Oh boy.
So I will throw on to Patch first. At first, sort of, we don't have too much of a structure, but we do want to hit a few notes each time to have a bit of something going. So let's start with the simple one. So you say you've only played 30 minutes of XCOM or XCOM, the expansion. What is it? Enemy Within. Would you recommend the game to someone after just 30 minutes of playing?
Me?
Yes.
Of course. I would recommend this game after 30 minutes of playing. Seems like, well, do we go into
Yeah,
details at
go
this
for it
point?
now. I think we
Yeah.
go.
Well, there's a lot this game has to offer, especially in the first 30 minutes. You'll see in my run, I actually get through the first 30 days of the game. Because I was rushing through it. Obviously, I wasn't sitting and watching the cinematics. I was, gunning through it as quick as I could. And I've obviously played a lot, and I do mean quite a lot. So I've actually quite good at doing this intro now. Um, Not just the intro, but like the early setups. I know I have like strategies I like to follow. I have things I like to do with my base and with my soldiers, priorities. So I do a lot of that. Um, and but yeah, sorry, I'm getting off track.
You're
But the
right.
point is, the stuff that you will see I do is all stuff you'll do in like the first hour of gameplay. And it is all a lot of options. There is a lot of choice you get at this point in the game. Um, just you get to do research, you get to do your engineering, you get to soldiers, you start to customize, and yeah, in the first 30 minutes, this game it has so much to offer. Um, I don't know. I can't really.
I like how you get thrown probably straight into combat. Like I think even
Yeah.
my game, I think you're looking at now. I mean, what are we like 3 minutes into my game as well, and I'm already about to go on a mission. Like you're playing the expansion, so it's even quicker to get straight into combat because they're assuming people have already played the original. Me, I'm just like never seen this before in my life, and they're like, let's go into a mission. You know, like they don't beat around the bush. It's really good. I really enjoyed the first 30 minutes, and that's sort of like the main point of what we're trying to do here. Like, excuse me. The Did you enjoy the game? Do you think you've seen a lot of what the game has to offer? Like, maybe let's talk about that. In terms of you've played on in XCOM, so we've got a bit of sort of I don't know, looped knowledge here. We don't have to extrapolate as much. But do you think in the first half an hour you've seen enough of the game to say, well, I got an idea of what the game's going to be like from now on, or do you think they hold too much back, or how do you feel like that, or are you like
Um,
anticipating the next thing because you've got a taste, or you're like, oh, I
well,
wish this was already shown to me, or
with assuming if I was to assume this was from blank, it gives you plenty to go with. Like you think there's so much to do. There's so much research you haven't seen. There's more building types, like soldiers, all this different stuff. If nothing else, the fact your soldiers can level up like 6 or 7 or 8 times means that your squad, if nothing else, will get a lot bigger. And when you go on missions, it does show you that you can have more squad members and things like that. And obviously, you can get more gear in time. And so there is a lot from that fresh perspective, knowing that you will uncover as you go along. And likewise, as someone who has played the game, you know, a lot, I know that you do get a lot of options as the game goes on, and they keep it, they keep introducing new elements as long as they can, really, like without making the game very, very difficult to balance, very difficult to keep
Right.
going.
And
Like
because
they
it's a
keep introducing
tactical
new
game,
enemies.
because it's a like
Yeah,
a tactical sort of, I don't know what you call this, a tactical game, but like
yeah, tacticals,
yeah,
turn-based tactics.
turn-based tactics. It doesn't want to hold too much right to the end. Like, okay, compare this to more of an RPG or an action adventure style game. They'll keep introducing features and things right up until the end, and you might learn the special technique to beat the boss right before the final boss. In this, you don't want that. You want as many of the cards on the table as early as possible so that you can learn and strategize and you know think up your own ways to use certain things. So I think
Yeah,
it's good that it's front heavy with a lot of the things that you're working on, and they trickle you a lot of stuff, and then the back end of the game, I haven't made it there myself, but it's good if you have a lot of that
well,
already presented to you.
the back end of the game is actually where the game starts running out of steam because once you've seen every enemy type, like once you've seen the biggest, toughest enemy, nothing else is going to come in that's bigger and tougher than it. Um,
Okay, so they're
Combat's not going to be,
probably trying to rely on their story beats a little bit there, and
yeah,
haven't quite
and
got that.
by the time you see the biggest, toughest enemy in the game, or the most powerful enemy or whatever, there's no greater challenge. That's it. So your soldiers can't get much better either at that. I'm not sure why I was paused here for so long. I think I was doing something to the side really quick, and I thought it'd be fine because I rushed through this mission so quick. I rushed through the first
That's right. They
30
can watch
minutes.
the beautiful cinematics on my screen.
Yeah, but with the idea that the game slows down a bit towards the end, it's not to a huge detriment to the game, um, because the gameplay is still quite fun and engaging. Like the tactical gameplay of moving your soldiers around and fighting aliens and
Yep.
positioning and upgrading and things like that. That's all pretty engaging.
It's not.
And you can even
Yep.
late game take a weaker squad to train them up instead of just taking your best every time. So
You can mix it up.
yeah.
All right. Well, if we swing back to the start, I know we said we're cheating a little bit and we've got full knowledge of how things go, but what about like plot elements? I know that again it's a tactical game, so first and foremost, you're here for the combat and the battles, well, the skirmishes that you're seeing now. But do you think you get a good representation of what's going on in the missions and things here? Like as you can just see from our playing, do we already sort of know what we're doing?
Well, for the story
Yes,
or
plot story.
yeah, well, from this point in the first half hour, I'd actually say there's not all that much plot, but um, as you mentioned, the game starts with combat, and that's because combat is the most important element of the game, and that's what they want you to know and pay attention to. And so, in the concept of story, you don't get introduced to a lot, and the game's not heavy on story, but it's certainly serviceable, and there's enough. Um, the motivation to stop the alien, plenty, to play the game, and you don't really need like a detailed analysis, and because your squad is random people, you don't really get to experience like characters, so to speak,
Right.
in a story. And so it's fine as it is. But I wouldn't say like story is anything that this game was sold on.
No, I guess, like you said, serviceable is a good answer. Although, I mean, that almost undersells it, in my opinion. I think they probably do what's needed to get you invested in the tactical combat side of things straight away. I think they just go, aliens are invading, and the first thing they did was kill people, so we have to go and kill.
Yeah,
Like, that is
which is all
enough.
they needed to do.
Yeah, I didn't need 30 minutes of cutscenes and people talking and things going on and trying to figure out if we need to fight and all these other things. It was just, okay, aliens are fighting, we need to fight back. And I felt like
Yeah.
that's plenty. Yeah, you're right. The game as a whole isn't going to hang off its plot, but I think that's good. I thought that was pretty good anyway.
No, I would agree that the plot is plenty. You don't need any more than what they present, and it's almost a callback to the games of yonder year, where it was here is a game, here's the backstory and the manual, and then you might get like an opening scroll or an opening little thing, and then you don't get anything until basically the end of the game.
I
You know,
remember,
like it's
and this is an entirely different game, but and you're gonna have to help me here. We played the Ghouls and Ghosts versions, but it's known as Ghouls and Goblins or something like that, or it has a
Ghosts and Gob
yeah,
Ghouls and
it
Goblins. I
has
know what
like
you're
a
talking about.
European
I'm
and
sure everyone
American
knows what you're
or
talking about.
Japanese for like whatever. But if you know that game, it's like when you talk about games of old that go um, just go and you start a mission and you're fighting. You got like really there's like a scrolling text at the start, I think, that just
Yeah,
says
this
you're
is what
you're
happened.
this person, go kill Loki or something, and that's kind of it. And it's just
Yeah,
like that's it. There's like all you need to know is here's the bad guy, and we'll just teach you mechanics as you play. Well, they give you equipment and stuff like that. So that's what this feels like a little bit. They just said, look, do you really care if we write a story? Like, just
yeah. You don't
aliens are invading, go fight, go kill. That's it.
you you don't need a 10, 20 minute cutscene to
Right.
care that the princess has been kidnapped. All you need to see is that you and the princess are standing next to each other, talking or sitting or whatever. And then Loki shows up and kidnaps her, or something shows up and kidnaps her.
Yep.
That's all the motivation you need. You've got an establishment that these two characters are together. This thing has taken them apart, you know.
Yep.
And the same applies to this game. You don't need to know, you know, the state of the world. You don't need to know why the
You
aliens are
don't
coming
need to
in.
know how
You need a
XCOM came to be. You just need to know that
yeah,
theoretically there's an
aliens are
alien fighting
attacking.
organization. Yeah.
Yeah, aliens are attacking, and we need to kill them. That is all you need to know, and that's good. Like that's plenty.
And there's no
You've going into
ambiguity if they're good. I think
yeah,
like as someone who's watched a bit of Star Trek and stuff like that at times, you know unknown slash alien doesn't necessarily have to mean bad, but in this context, I think it's great that they just go, look, there's no ambiguity. The first thing they do when they show up is start killing people.
well,
So we
you know
have
what? I
no,
imagine a lot of people at this point are thinking, well, what's the alternative? How would it be any different? But it would be very easy to introduce this game with, um, say, a news scroll, where it's like, oh,
well,
you
it's
know,
like
we've discovered aliens, and then it cuts to like a news clip of a president going out to meet the alien, and then it's got all this stuff to do with the alien peace talks, and then suddenly there's a thing and it goes bad, like a human shoots an alien, and then suddenly the aliens declare war on humanity because of one human selfish action. You know, like
yeah.
they could have done that, and that would have completely changed the tone. It would have completely ruined the game for me.
Well,
But this
I don't think it would have
sheer
ruined it, but the game doesn't need that. Like,
no,
it doesn't. It need all it needed to do is to say aliens came, started killing, so this is it.
yeah,
This is our only, like I
kill
say,
them
our
back.
only choice. Let's fight them. I
Um,
think it's pretty good like that actually. I enjoyed. I like a good moral and ethical quandary, but
I don't.
I
I'm
do.
tired of
But
them.
but in this context, it's nice to just have just lay it out. Good, bad, fight.
Good, bad,
I like
kill.
how I'm just watching your screen because I haven't seen you play this much slash ever, and you just like they're such shit shots. I'm gonna just run everything.
Oh, at this point in the game, they need a crit to kill your soldier from full health, and otherwise they'll typically do 3 damage.
Oh,
And
okay.
a crit also won't kill most time. Well, I mean, it can do 5 or 6 damage basically. I think a crit can from their weapons,
Yep.
and yeah, so I'm not worried. Um, on that, you know, absolute worst case scenario, the alien hits from Overwatch, which I'm pretty sure gets an aim penalty. They might crit, kill my guy, and that's like the smallest chance of happening.
That's a
So I'm like,
pretty cool
okay, I'm just gonna go
explanation.
do it.
It's a cool explanation because like again, first 30 minutes, like
You
y-
don't know these
yeah,
things
but
when you play the first 30
you
minutes.
learn them
Yeah.
and
Um,
it puts
I'd
it
say,
like if you learn that you can take a hit from any of the aliens in the first 30, it's like, oh, okay, cool. That's
well,
important. That's good gameplay stuff.
well, alternatively, you could consider my gameplay um, more reckless, like how someone might play before they've seen how fragile a soldier is. Because as you've seen, I don't think one of my soldiers has taken a hit yet,
No.
and I have been playing reckless. And so if you do play recklessly and none of your soldiers get punished for it, you might play like I do, where you are a lot more cavalier about
Yeah,
what
see,
happened.
you won't see enough of it in my game because I don't get half as far, but I'm cautious to a fault. I'm the type of guy who'll pick like three snipers and two heavies and just one healer. That's it. And just
Well,
sit back and wait.
it's probably a good time to bring up version differences because one of the big important things about um, the expansion is it adds this meld, which my soldier was just standing next to a moment ago, that glowing thing.
Oh, okay.
And it's on a time limit. And if you do not collect it within that time limit, it disappears forever. You don't get it.
Oh, and
And
it's a
it's a
resource. Yep.
resource for, yeah, some expansion stuff. So, yeah, you sort of are pushed to rush into missions
I kind of
a
like
lot
that
more.
too. Like you say, like I'm cautious to a fault. I've only played the first one, which is below, and yeah, they obviously realize, look, we want to encourage combat and skirmish, so we're going to create this meld, and if you are a little bit more bold, you can collect it.
I'll say
'Cause-
one of the big changes, I don't know if people have noticed, they might have had a chance to see. Uh, my soldiers, and I don't actually know because I haven't been looking at your version, watching myself play. There we go. My first soldier gets hit for two
Ow.
damage. He's out in the open in a smoke grenade. But yeah, something that you might see, and I'll keep an eye on your game to see if it comes up, is my soldiers when they miss, and this guy might, I guess he's gonna walk right up to him. When they miss, they shoot straight over the head of the enemy, almost without fail. They always shoot directly above the enemy's head, and that I don't remember that being in the game when I first played the vanilla game. What would happen is when you missed a soldier, the bullets would go in like a distributed circle around that target, like a random spot within that area. Um, and so it might hit terrain, it might go over them, it might go under them.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes it would hit direct on and still count as a miss.
Yeah, they obviously
Um,
didn't want that.
yeah, which I can understand, but I actually liked it more because what could happen is your soldier could open fire and destroy a wall, and take out a piece of terrain that the enemy had cover behind, and it gave you this sort of okay, maybe you missed, but maybe it still turned out favorably for you. Maybe something good still happened. Whereas nowadays, miss, and it sort of gave a negative experience to me. Like, sure, it was silly when they shot on target, hitting the enemy and missed, but you could make a justification that,
It didn't
maybe
damage
the
them.
shot wasn't fatal,
Yep.
maybe it wasn't, you know, and there was sort of good reasons for that. Whereas, yeah, now it's just they shoot over the head.
I guess
And
that's one of
it's
those.
silly.
I guess it's one of those things. It's fun and realistic, but if you're trying to make a really complex tactical kind of game, the more random chance of destroying obstacles or coverage, or from shooting
But
wide or shooting high or shooting low, like that makes the game less, I don't know,
yeah,
less easier to manage. Like if you hide two guys behind a wall and then you try and have one guy shoot from sort of like the next wall back, and he actually takes out all the coverage of your first two guys. You know.
oh, look at this move. First turn, sniper on the roof. Perfect.
Hooray!
It's not like anyone was going to shoot him first turn. And then I alerted two enemies, so I immediately saw where all my enemies were. That was a brilliant move. You should always run on the first turn to find an enemy if you can get somewhere completely safe.
And use your snipers,
'Cause,
because then you can just
yeah,
overwatch them next time.
yeah, the enemy can't really do anything on the first turn. If you have, and then once you've seen them, you know where to move your. It's a lot. I don't know. This is me. I'm a reckless player, so don't take my, strategy as always good. But
But
I'm a
the thing
very
is though, we're talking about like strategies, and sure you know, like in your case, you're saying I know these things from playing before, but if you're new to this game, you would still figure out things like that. Like if you're new and you ran a sniper to the roof and it worked out as well as yours just did, like you would learn the first time you did that, say in the first half an hour, like that's a thing. You'd,
yeah,
you'd probably be like, oh, I'm struggling. Why don't I do that sniper on the roof thing again? And
yeah.
when we're talking about like just 30, first 30 minutes, like that's the sort of thing I'm thinking about. Like, what do you get out of the game in the first 30 minutes? Well, you're learning strategy. You're learning not complex, but you're starting to get into complex kind of strategies and ideas and stuff like that. And I think that
Well,
makes it really good.
video games are inherently complex in that you have to make a lot of decisions, especially in a game like. And when I say complex, I mean like an AI really struggles with this. even an AI designed for it, really has a hard time making a decision, um, because knowledge that is available to you, versus what you can do, and all that stuff. And so they are quite complex in a decision-making sense, and what you decide to do has consequences. So I don't know. I just find it interesting. I had a point initially, but I have forgotten it because
Kind
I
of
talked.
teeter off. I was watching Scientist Man. I like you've got like one escort guy and the rest of the team's out there killing.
Yeah.
That's exactly how
Well,
I'd do it.
yeah. Hopefully, we'll get to see in your one now. We'll get to see one of your soldiers miss a shot,
Ah,
and
yep. So you can see the difference. I honestly can't remember. We didn't record this recently. In the future, I think what we might do maybe is record on the day. So then
yeah,
we won't be looking at each other's footage, but the whole point will be to talk about our first half an hour. We should
yeah.
we should mention that too. So I said before this is a bit of a cheat, but now I can put it in a bit of context. See, we can skip back and forth with XCOM and say, "Oh, we've seen this, we've seen that." We know where this is going. We know that this is indicative of what's to come. Blah blah. In the future, we're going to try and pick games that we haven't played or we don't own, and get them and play them for 30 minutes, and then you know base our assessments off that. So if we end up in a situation where we haven't seen each other playing, that's fine, because like if I play for 30 minutes and then I watch Patch play for 30 minutes, well, my impression of 30 minutes is different now because I've got multiple perspectives. It's basically playing for an hour. So here we're kind of cheating. Now you get what I was saying when I said we're cheating a bit. We sort of know how the game works, and we know how each other play, and we know how all these things go. So,
You also missed just a moment ago.
oh, did I?
That thing I've been ranting on about. Blade, the enemy, took a shot at your guy on the roof, destroyed his cover,
Oh, yep.
with a miss, and yeah, just wanted to bring that up because gosh, it makes a difference. For the first 30 thing, yeah, it's this game we chose because we did know it. Um, we knew what we're getting into. We knew how much of a game showcased in that time.
We wanted to get used to things like, I don't know, like I say format, but it's literally like I literally wrote three questions as notes,
Yeah,
and we should probably get on to the third one just to wrap up. But we just want to get used to like editing, and I kind of like the split screen perspective we've got there, and I don't know, we haven't
yeah.
really recorded anything for a while, so this was just like, don't make it too hard. Just pick something we're familiar with that we knew we liked this game going in. And
Yeah,
just something that we had plenty to talk about without stressing. So we just thought we'd get everything covered. I don't.
and I mean it's
We
it's
had a
first
few.
30 minutes. Couldn't do it with like an RPG as easily. Like we couldn't do it with Final Fantasy 13.
Well, that's the
It'd have to
thing,
be
right?
first 30
Like,
hours.
I would like to. I think we will endeavor to do different
Sure,
genres.
different genres.
I think we should definitely try and have us that. Okay, okay. So let me run through the three questions because this is going to annoy me until I say it. So I asked the first question we want to cover every time. We might not directly ask these questions. This is just the general three things I want out of we want. This is a team effort. Sorry. The general thing we want out of every episode or every recording that we do. First question is: after 30 minutes, do we think this is a good game? Would we recommend it to people who are unsure? So that's sort of what we're covering. And the
Yes.
second, in this case, yes. Second part of this is after 30 minutes, or your guy is gonna cop it. Bam! Oh, he takes no damage. Screw it. He's gonna
Yep.
punch him in the snoz.
Told you, not worried.
the the second question is after 30 minutes, do you think you've seen enough, or at least like what you've seen of the game is indicative of what's to come? Like you don't want to be like you said an RPG where all you've seen is a cinematic and like a couple of combat. You're like, I haven't really seen anything. I haven't met half the characters. I haven't met half the combat techniques. I haven't met half the strategies. I don't really know what's going on in the story. In those cases, it might be harder. But here again, as we talked about in quite detail, it's good. They give you just enough to get going, and they teach you. They just go, aliens bad, go shoot them. Give you a couple of missions and a few soldiers, and go, yeah, good, good, good. So that's one and two. Third piece is,
Also, yes.
yeah, also, yes, this is really good in that regard. See, like I say, we handpicked this game because we knew it would tick the boxes. Third part, And this isn't like specifically for each game. We're just trying to explore because we've had this conversation prior a lot. How long should a game take to give you that taste? So in this case, we're saying XCOM is good, and 30 minutes gives you good indication of how long the game is. In XCOM's case, if let's say we'd made this 2 hours long, we'd be like, okay, it took 2 hours to learn everything about like what we're getting out of XCOM. That's probably too long in a game like this. And so that's where we sort of come to is like, what's the appropriate amount of time for a game to show you enough for you to be able to make a decision? Because let me phrase it another way. When you say read a game review or watch a game review, and it's always like, well, someone played this game, but how long did they play it for when doing the review? I'm doing
Yeah,
shrug.
did they
I'm
play it
doing
to the
shrugging
first
motions.
mission? Did they play an hour?
Right. And you see a lot of
You'd be
these. I don't want to
surprised.
name any, and I don't mean to point, but say you're a like a gaming online gaming journal or magazine. You guys know the ones I'm talking about. Like they have to say they have to cover. They've got half a dozen people, and they have to cover like a dozen games a week. Well, how much time are they really going to put into each of those? And then they have to go and write the articles. And it's like you can't blame them, but it's like you always question the sanctity of how much they've put in. And that's
Yeah,
but that's
especially for an RPG that has a lot of content. When you play, you know, a game, you have to put a certain amount of time, like 8+ hours into it in a proper full title. And some RPGs can go 50+ hours before you've really experienced, the mainline story and a bunch of side quest story paths. And so you do need a lot of time. And, you know,
yep, and
sorry,
that's
I'm agreeing with you, basically.
yeah, no, that's fine. And that's what our third sort of point is. What can we learn from whatever game we're looking at in terms of how much time is appropriate for this game, similar games, genre games, do you need more time or less time in a sequel? Like that's why having the expansion here is good because we're saying that it's kind of good. It realizes that it doesn't need to spend another 5 minutes doing intro cinematics because you'd see Patch's screen got into this a lot quicker than mine did, for example, and just things like that. We're just trying to say what can we get out of games, the game that we're playing that says like how long should it be? How long should XCOM take to tell you if you've done anything? We think 30 minutes is good. Now, if we were to play something else next week, would 30 minutes still be appropriate? I don't think 30 minutes is appropriate in every case. So, what factors determine where 30 minutes or where an hour or where 8 hours is? What factors determine, which ones are good or which ones are bad or which ones need longer? And then once, hopefully, maybe we've got some ideas, we can say like, oh, this game we played for half an hour. We should have had an indication of if it's going to be good or bad, and we didn't. That can be a negative review towards the game too. And that's the sort of path we're going with our 3 questions. We want to be able to say, well, how much info do we have? What can we tell you about the games, and did we like them? I'm promoting people, yay! I totally forgot how all that worked too when I was doing it. Like since I played this game, I haven't played this game for over a year, which is weird. I really like it, just never got to it.
I played it, I don't know, when I first got it, I think I played it all in the one go and beat it, not in like a single sitting in 8 hours, but I think I beat it in like 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it's
just playing it over and over.
Anyway, look,
but
we're wrapping up,
yeah.
my good sir.
Oh, are we? I'm sorry.
You're right. I want to keep these videos under 30 minutes. It'd be weird to have a show called Just 30 and then go for 35 minutes. It's like just 35. Anyway, look, I haven't got much else to say. Is there any like last minute sort of comments from you, Patch?
No, just what? Just on the game or the premise?
Just in general, probably the premise. Like we covered the game for 20 minutes. We had a good crack at it.
Yeah, if anyone ever has anything that they recommend would make an interesting 30-minute experience.
And we want everything from like AAAs to indies to quirky stuff to different genres that cross genre boundaries and all sorts of weird stuff.
I do have a small consideration though, and that is shoot, I can't remember what my consideration was. It was something to do with cinematics and time to get into game.
That's right.
And whatnot. That's
we'll
it.
Add it
I rushed through
anyway.
this, right? In this video, I rushed through it, and you didn't. Good time. And you watched all the cinematics and stuff. And my only consideration was, how much time do we spend on that stuff, on watching cinematics, on do we consider that as part of the first 30 minutes? I know it is part of the first 30 minutes of exposure to the game, but how you experience the first 30 minutes can be a lot different person to person.
Yes, we will have to judge that game versus
Yeah.
game. All right,
Anyway,
let me wrap up. We kind of just went over 30, but first episode we basically spent half of it explaining what we're trying to do here. I don't know how we're going for time, but I'd love to get another one of these up pretty quick. So anyway, we'll leave it for that. Thanks for watching. And like Patch said, if you've got any ideas like for the show or what games that might be interesting, yeah, let me know. What games you're thinking of buying and you're not sure, let us know and we'll have a crack at it. Yeah. All
yeah.
right. I'll see you guys later then.